The invitation to the annual Tech Industry Excellence Gala sat on my desk, its gold embossing catching the morning light. 5 years ago, I would have been helping organize this event as a mid-level project manager at TechCore Solutions. Now, I was invited as the owner of what they called a boutique consulting firm. Their polite way of saying small and insignificant. I'm Maya Chen, and 3 years ago, I walked away from my prestigious position at one of Silicon Valley's fastest-growing companies to start my own consulting business. Everyone thought I was crazy. Maybe I was, but I saw something they didn't. Another coffee, Ms. Chen. Linda, my assistant, appeared at my office door. She was one of only 4 employees in my firm, but worth more than an entire department at TechCore. Thanks, Linda. Did you finish that analysis of TechCore's system architecture? She smiled, placing the coffee on my desk. Just completed it. You were right. They never updated the core banking module after Marcus left. They're still running on his original framework. Marcus, my mentor at TechCore, the brilliant developer who'd been pushed up 2 years before I left. The man who taught me that sometimes the quiet ones in the corner office knew more than the executives in their glass towers. I picked up the gala invitation again. Tonight would be interesting. TechCore's CEO, Richard Sterling, would be there, along with my former supervisor, Diana Wright. They both laughed when I resigned. You'll be back, Diana had said. Nobody leaves TechCore for a startup and survives. The afternoon passed in a blur of meetings and code reviews. My small team was finishing up projects for 3 major banks, but our real work, the project that would change everything, was safely encrypted on our secure servers. At 6 p.m., I slipped into a simple black dress, nothing too flashy. In my line of work, it's better to be underestimated. I tucked a small tablet into my clutch. You never know when you might need to share some interesting data. The gala was being held at the Four Seasons, all crystal chandeliers and premium champagne. I spotted familiar faces from my TechCore days, now arranged in their corporate hierarchy like a perfectly choreographed dance. Maya Chen. Diana's voice carried across the room. I hardly recognize you without your project folders. I turned to face my former supervisor. She'd aged in the past 3 years, though she tried to hide it under expensive makeup. Behind her, Richard Sterling approached, champagne in hand. Well, he smiled, all teeth and no warmth. Our little rebel. How's the consulting business? Still working out of that small office downtown? It pays the bills, I replied mildly, sipping my champagne. How's the banking platform holding up? A flicker of something, concern, crossed Richard's face before his smile returned. Better than ever. We just signed 3 new major clients. 4. Diana corrected quickly. The merger with First National goes through next week. I nodded, remembering the email I'd received that morning from First National's CTO. They didn't know yet what they'd bought into. Of course, we only work with serious technology partners now, Richard continued. The big players, no offense, but boutique firms just can't handle enterprise-level solutions. Around us, other TechCore executives had gathered, drawn to the spectacle of their CEO putting the former employee in her place. I recognized most of them, the same faces who dismissed Marcus's warnings years ago. Speaking of enterprise solutions, I said casually, pulling out my tablet. I've been meaning to ask about the core banking module, the one Marcus built. Richard's smile froze. Ancient history. We've completely rebuilt the system. Have you? I pulled up a screen of code, because this is from your current deployment. See these timestamps? All original Marcus code. In fact, I swiped to another screen. This entire framework is still running on his architecture. Diana stepped forward, her voice sharp. That's proprietary information. You have no right. Actually, I do. I smiled, thinking of the countless nights Marcus and I had spent documenting everything. You see, when Marcus left, he transferred his intellectual property rights to a holding company, one that I now own. The champagne glass in Richard's hand trembled slightly. That's impossible. We own all code developed during employment. Check your contracts, I suggested. Marcus was hired as a consultant, not an employee. His contract specifically retained IP rights, something HR overlooked when they pushed him out. The circle around us had grown quieter. Everyone at TechCore knew the banking platform was their crown jewel, the system that handled transactions for half the banks in the country. What they didn't know was that it had been built on borrowed time. This is absurd, Richard blustered. Our legal team has already received the documentation. I finished, along with notice that the license agreement for the core banking module expires in exactly 1 month. Diana's face had gone pale. 1 month? But the First National merger goes through next week, I know. I put my tablet away. Interesting timing. Richard grabbed my arm, his fingers digging in. Listen here, you little. I wouldn't, I said quietly. There are too many witnesses, and your shareholders might not appreciate knowing you physically threatened the woman who owns your core technology. He released me as if burned. Around us, phones had appeared, executives frantically messaging their teams. What do you want? Richard's voice had dropped to a whisper. My team will be in touch tomorrow with terms for a new license agreement. I picked up my clutch. Oh, and Richard, the rate just went up. As I turned to leave, Diana called after me. You planned this all along, didn't you? Right from when you left. I paused, thinking of Marcus, of all the nights we'd spent preparing for this moment. No, Diana. You planned it when you decided that loyalty meant nothing and experience could be discarded. I just paid attention. The drive home was quiet, the city lights blurring past my window. I thought about Marcus, now retired comfortably on a beach somewhere. His revenge served cold and precise. I thought about my small team, each handpicked for their skills and integrity, each about to become very wealthy. My phone buzzed. A message from Linda. Emergency board meeting called at TechCore for 7 a.m. Want me to order breakfast for our 9 a.m. negotiation? I smiled. Make it for 8 a.m. They won't sleep tonight, and the sooner we start, the better. Tomorrow would change everything, but tonight, I had one more call to make. I dialed a familiar number. It's done, I said when Marcus answered. Just like you predicted. His laugh was warm and satisfied. The student becomes the master. Did Richard do the thing with his champagne glass? Shaking like a leaf. Perfect. He paused. You know they'll try to fight it. Let them, I replied, thinking of the documents in our secure server, the years of evidence, the carefully constructed legal framework. Some battles are won long before the first shot is fired. I hung up and looked out over the city, lights twinkling like stars. Somewhere in a boardroom, Richard and his team were about to discover just how expensive underestimating people could be. But that was tomorrow's drama. Tonight, I had reports to review, code to check, and a small team of brilliant people to thank. Because the truth is, real power isn't in corner offices or corporate titles. It's in knowing your worth and having the patience to wait for the right moment to prove it. Tomorrow would be interesting indeed. I arrived at my office at 7:30 a.m., just as the sun was rising over the city skyline. Through my window, I could see the TechCore building across the street, lights blazing in the executive boardroom. Linda was already at her desk, multiple screens displaying various news feeds. They've been in there since 3 a.m., she reported, handing me a coffee. Their legal team arrived an hour ago. The stock's already down 2% in pre-market trading. I nodded, watching a group of suited executives hurry into the TechCore building. Any word from First National? Their CTO called twice. They're concerned about the merger implications. I bet they are. I sat at my desk, reviewing the documents we prepared. Is everyone ready? Linda smiled. The team's in the conference room. Dev logs, license agreements, everything documented and triple-checked. Even found some interesting emails from when they pushed Marcus out. At precisely 8 a.m., our receptionist announced the arrival of the TechCore delegation. Richard Sterling led the group, looking like he hadn't slept. Diana Wright followed, along with 3 lawyers and their head of technology. Nice office, Richard said, trying for his usual condescending tone but falling short. Bigger than I expected. We believe in quality over quantity, I replied, leading them to the conference room. Unlike some companies that prioritize expansion over excellence, my team was waiting inside. Just 4 people, but each worth their weight in gold. James, our lead architect. Sarah, our legal expert. Mike, our security specialist. And Linda, who knew more about TechCore's systems than their entire IT department. Let's cut to the chase, Richard began once everyone was seated. Your claims about the banking module are exaggerated. Our legal team has reviewed all contracts. Sarah smiled, sliding a folder across the table, including this one, the original consulting agreement with Maya Chen, dated 2015. Page 4, paragraph 3 specifically retains all intellectual property rights. That agreement was superseded, one of their lawyers argued. No, Sarah countered, it was supplemented. The additional agreements added services but never replaced the original IP clause. As you can see from the documentation, the core banking module was developed under the original agreement. Diana leaned forward. Even if that's true, you can't just shut down our systems. We have contracts with major financial institutions. Actually, James spoke up, pulling up a code display. The license agreement is very specific about termination rights. But we're not here to shut you down. We're here to negotiate. Richard's face darkened. You're trying to hold us hostage. No, I said quietly. I'm trying to correct a mistake you made 3 years ago when you decided that experience and loyalty meant nothing. When you push out the man who built your core systems because he wouldn't play your political games. This is about Marcus. Diana scoffed. He was difficult, uncooperative. He was brilliant. I cut in. And he saw this coming. Why do you think he documented everything so carefully? Why do you think he kept such detailed records of every meeting, every decision, every modification? Mike tapped his tablet and the wall screen filled with emails. Internal communications from 3 years ago, discussing how to ease out Marcus while retaining control of his work. Where did you get those? Richard demanded. Marcus kept copies of everything, I explained. He knew someday someone would need to prove what really happened. Now, shall we discuss the new licensing terms? The next 2 hours were intense. Their lawyers argued, threatened, and finally negotiated. Sarah calmly countered every point, backed by irrefutable documentation. James demonstrated exactly how dependent their systems were on Marcus's original architecture. Finally, Richard sat back, defeated. What are your terms? I slid across a single sheet of paper. He read it, his face growing redder by the second. This is extortion. 20% of all revenue from the banking platform. For the next 5 years, I confirmed. After that, we can renegotiate, or you can rebuild your entire system from scratch. I'm sure your clients would understand the 3-year service interruption. Diana grabbed the paper, plus seats on the board. Technical oversight of all modifications. We want to ensure the integrity of the system, James explained. After all, our reputation is now tied to its performance. Richard stood up, pacing. And if we refuse? Then in 29 days, the license expires. First National's merger will collapse. Your stock will tank, and every bank using your platform will start looking for alternatives. I kept my voice calm. Or we can sign this agreement and nothing changes for your clients, except that the system they rely on will now have proper oversight. The room was silent except for Richard's pacing. Finally, Diana spoke up. Richard, we don't have a choice. The merger, he spun around. This is blackmail. No, I corrected. This is business. The kind you taught me. The kind where you leverage every advantage and never show mercy. I was paying attention during all those executive meetings. Another hour of legal review, and it was done. They signed. As they filed out, Diana lingered. You could have warned us, she said, given us a chance to prepare. Like you warned Marcus, or me, or any of the other talented people you discarded because they didn't fit your corporate image. She left without responding. I watched through my window as the TechCore delegation crossed the street, shoulders slumped in defeat. Linda appeared with fresh coffee. Stock's down 5% now. Want me to call Marcus? Not yet. I smiled, remembering all the lessons he taught me. Let's wait until the merger announcement. He'll enjoy that more. Over the next few weeks, everything changed. First National's merger went through, their executives never knowing how close they'd come to disaster. TechCore's stock recovered once the market realized their core technology was now more secure than ever. And my boutique firm became one of the most sought-after consultancies in the industry. 6 months later, I sat in TechCore's boardroom, now as a director overseeing technical operations. Richard had retired to spend more time with his family. Diana had transferred to their European division. And the banking platform, under James's oversight, was performing better than ever. My phone buzzed. A message from Marcus, now living in New Zealand. Saw the quarterly results. Well done, Grasshopper. I smiled, looking out over the city. The view was different from this side of the street, but the lesson was the same. True power isn't about corner offices or fancy titles. It's about knowing your worth, protecting your integrity, and having the patience to wait for the right moment. That evening, I gathered my small team for dinner. We'd grown to 6 people now, still tiny by industry standards. But size had never been our goal. To Marcus, I proposed a toast, who taught us that the best revenge is building something better. To the quiet ones, Linda added, who see everything and bide their time. Later, alone in my office, I found an old photo from my TechCore days, me and Marcus celebrating after launching the banking platform. He'd known even then what would happen, had prepared for it meticulously, but his greatest legacy wasn't the code or the contracts or even the victory we'd achieved. It was the lesson he taught me, that success isn't about climbing corporate ladders or winning power games. It's about building something meaningful and protecting it with integrity. I pinned the photo to my wall, next to our framed licensing agreement with TechCore. A reminder that sometimes the biggest victories come not from fighting battles, but from being patient enough to let others make their own mistakes. As I left the office that night, I passed the cleaning crew arriving at TechCore. The same crew that had been there during all those late nights when Marcus and I documented everything, prepared everything, waited for everything. "Good evening, Ms. Chen," the night guard called. "Good evening, Joe," I replied, remembering how he used to let me in early to gather evidence. Another quiet one who saw everything and said nothing. The city lights twinkled as I drove home, each one a reminder of the countless systems running on our code, now properly protected and maintained. Marcus had been right. The best revenge wasn't revenge at all. It was building something better from the ashes of others' mistakes. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, new lessons. But tonight, I had the satisfaction of knowing that sometimes the smallest players on the board can change the entire game. Not through force or fear, but through patience, preparation, and the quiet confidence that comes from knowing your true worth. After all, in business as in life, it's not the size of your office that matters. It's the strength of your foundations and the integrity of your code, both the digital kind and the personal kind. And those, as TechCore had learned, were worth far more than they ever imagined.